What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite pond, the Coy Pond, episode 81.
Whee!
Oh, yeah. We are back in studio, joined by my wonderful co-host, K-Dog, once again. He's back from his trip to the Antarctic.
Nice to be back. It's so much warmer here.
Oh, yes. Very, very much better. As always, you guys know you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Twitter, Amazon Music, and as always, never forget that we will answer any questions you have if you leave them on SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/thekoypond. And don't forget to pick up your fanciest and best wardrobe from the merch store. Plenty, and I mean plenty, to choose from. I believe they might even have a bandana for your dog. Perhaps.
Yes.
Nevertheless.
Yes. Wolfie would look fabulous with his
yes.
koi fish on,
Baxter's never looked more fashionable.
Yes.
This bright blue or white Coy Pond bandana.
Amazing.
Amazing. And episode 81, do you have your favorite Cowboys player off the top of your head?
Well, you know, the one that pops to mind immediately was T.O.
Oh.
So that one was kind of easy, but
that is a good one.
Not really classic Cowboys wearing 81 that I could think of offhand.
No, don't blame you. I think my favorite, at least on the Chargers, since I've got wide receivers, Mike Williams.
Okay.
Recently back with the Chargers. He wore 81 his 2019 to 2023 stint. It was one of the first ones that you kind of watched the entire career of him as a Charger for the first time.
Oh, that's cool.
Minus like Bosa, Derwin James, and a couple others I kind of forgotten about. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I actually had one for once.
Well, nice.
So
all right.
Look at us.
That. Hey.
The 80s are going to be pretty easy, as you'd probably expect.
It's in the numbers.
But today, we're talking a little OTAs, a little, it's way too early to guess, but this is the Super Bowl type of conversations. OTAs, very exciting part of the season.
You know, we're starting to see all that talent get going, and just to kind of review some of the rules of the league. You know, the teams that have new coaches always get a head start on the rest of the league. But now I think everybody but maybe two teams are into OTAs.
Sounds about right.
If not all of them. And so now fans start to see pictures of, you know, their draft picks and free agent acquisitions in action, and some are not there.
Right. There's a few that aren't.
That's right. And you want to speak on that a little bit?
Might as well. Kirk Cousins, not at OTAs, as per would be expected, I would say. Got paid a bag. I believe he wants a trade, and he's not going to be there. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. Penix is going to start this season. I don't really blame the guy for not showing up. But, you know, it'll be interesting to see. It seems like the Falcons probably want to keep him as a last resort. So I don't know if they necessarily care if Grandpa's not showing up for OTAs at this point. I'd be impressed if they did care, to be honest with you, with how the last, 4 or 5 games of the season went last year where Penix came in for him.
Ridiculous, right?
And, you know, they were I think, had the playoffs and then blew it to the Buccaneers is what ended up happening, if I'm remembering that correct.
I think that's right.
They had their own destiny and they lost it.
Pretty impressively.
Yeah, and you know, I can't remember exactly what completely fell apart there, other than maybe just Kirk Cousins' performance. But he's not there for OTAs. James Cook wanting a better contract. That one, I don't necessarily disagree with.
That's legit.
He had a great season with the Bills.
Yep.
Up until last year No, he was good on the Vikings. He's a good running back. He had just a really good year, I'd say, with the Bills.
Yep.
I don't blame him for wanting to get paid more.
Yep. Well, I don't know if Dalvin Cook that played for the Vikings, is that his brother?
I would assume. I'm pretty sure. And that might be who I'm kind of confusing with the Vikings.
But apparently he's after $15 million a year, which would make him the 3rd or 4th highest paid back in the league.
To compliment Josh Allen, I don't know if that's wild, but I did see that Joey Bosa has a calf injury through the offseason until training camp or the preseason. Gosh. So, you know, can't say I didn't warn you, but I hate to see that for Bosa.
Yeah, speaking of $15 million, Derrick Henry, he got a 2-year extension. Mm-hmm. And it's the first running back in over 30 years, or first 30-year-old running back to average $15 million per year. It's with this extension now.
You know, I good on the Ravens. They got Derrick Henry. It's kind of the same way I feel about the Eagles with Saquon. Yeah, of course you're going to fucking pay him for as long as he wants to play.
Yeah.
It's a whole different game when they're both in.
Yep.
Obviously, Saquon pulled away a little bit more last year. But
again, back to the Ravens and the hump. We'll get to that in our playoff talk. But there's just don't have a warm and fuzzy about them.
No. It's tough after the last few years to feel that way with Patrick Mahomes still in the league. And then, of course...
Who else didn't show up?
T.J. Watt.
Okay.
Wanting contract extension, which you don't love to see.
No.
I mean, if you're a Steelers fan, you definitely want him on the field at all times. It's OTAs. It probably really doesn't matter at the end of the day, but it's a storyline nonetheless. I don't blame him for wanting more. I can't remember his last contract off the top of my head, but...
Yeah. Guy's well worth it.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things
kind of do whatever he wants.
It's like, if they just picked up that other defensive tackle in the first round of the draft, they got a steal on him. There's no one else I'd rather have him around than T.J. Watt until that first game of the year.
Yeah.
So, some pretty notable people out for OTAs. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers still hasn't signed with the Steelers.
Yep.
While we're talking about him, I still really think he's going to sign with the Steelers.
Is Kirk Cousins going to play into any of this at all, do you think?
I don't think so. I think the Falcons want to hold on to him.
Yeah.
I think they're going to, what's the right word? Hold him captive?
Yeah.
Hold him for ransom, but there's no ransom. I would be impressed if the Falcons got rid of him, only because while Penix did not have a bad first 4 games of his career, for heaven's sake, in the last 4 weeks of the season, you still need that insurance when you paid that much for Kirk Cousins, in my opinion. I could be dead wrong about that, and he's traded next week, and they bring in Aaron Rodgers on some chump change deal, but I just kind of feel like the Falcons are too invested to just give up Kirk Cousins right now. I don't know. Do you think Aaron Rodgers still signs with the Steelers?
I kind of don't. I don't know why, but I just don't.
Do you think he signs somewhere else, or do you think he just kind of fades out?
I think he's done.
This is his way of retiring.
Yeah, I don't know.
That'd be very Aaron Rodgers of him to kind of just be like,
drag it.
Maybe I'll drag this far enough that they forget, and then I'll just retire casually. Because I think someone did make some headlines saying that he would sign for a one-day contract with the Packers if given the option. So.
Interesting.
Maybe he is done. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to watch that over the next, rest of summer until August, basically.
That's for sure.
Who knows?
Word is that Jaden Daniels showed up noticeably bulked up from what he was last year.
Oh.
So he was kind of a thin dude, lanky.
Coming out of college.
Put a little bit more on to be able to take the hits better, maybe, if he's going to be running.
Yeah, I am curious to see how his game evolves, if it does. Clearly it worked the first season.
Yeah.
With the running game. People usually reference Andrew Luck. It's not worth destroying the future of your career for running a few extra yards. And I think he got better at it as the season went on, if I'm remembering it right.
He wasn't stupid about it.
Right. And it only takes a Michael Vick-style injury running to kind of throw your whole career off trajectory.
True.
So who knows who's been in his ear about that stuff. But that's good to hear he's built
up. Same team. Terry McLaurin is sitting out.
Oh, that's right.
Looking for a contract extension. So Adam Peters, the GM, said, hope to make Terry a commander for a long time, so we'll see what happens there.
I have to assume with Dan Snyder out of that building, they're not going to hold back on paying their best wide receiver in how many years to stay there and do amazing for Jaden Daniels now that they've got both puzzle pieces.
Yeah. Jamison Williams for the Lions.
Okay.
Remember, he really became a big play guy toward the second half of the year and more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So they said that they've noticed a change in just how his demeanor and attention to detail is during these OTAs.
Oh, so he's paying more attention. I like that.
So
for his own sake, with how his career started, that's a great thing to hear.
And he definitely has that big play capability, so he could be scary.
He was a horrific wide receiver.
Oh, last one to muscle up is Marvin Harrison Jr., so we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, if you paid attention to a couple videos ago, kudos to the Cardinals fan. I liked him. That was a good discussion, and I appreciate you. Opened my eyes on the Cardinals, but without a doubt, just need Marvin Harrison to get the ball a little bit more. And if that takes him bully-balling around a couple corners and safeties, so be it. That's a great thing to hear.
He's definitely got it, right?
Yeah.
Got the skill.
And I still think those Cardinals we'll get into that. As part of this video, all right?
We'll get into that.
Maybe we start with some wild cards.
Let's do that.
On both sides.
Let's do that.
Teams that maybe last year didn't make the playoffs or just in general aren't exactly favored this year to make the playoffs.
Yep.
Wild cards. Out of the gate comes to mind. I'm just going to say it, Cardinals.
Yeah, Cardinals, huh?
It feels like if you looked over the last few years, they've made some great improvements. And their defense has gotten better. They did just lose one of their corners for the season. I don't think that'll be the end of the injury bug and or the kryptonite for that team.
Yeah.
But if Marvin Harrison comes out with a big season, James Conner stays consistent, and Trey McBride stays on that course that he finished last year with, if Kyler Murray can just get them the ball, they'll be in fine shape. And he had, I think, one of his best seasons last season.
Yeah.
That new coach from the Eagles that was their defensive coordinator, who's now the coach there for now his third season.
Yeah.
He's improved that team a lot. From
he has
4-13 to 8-9, I think it was, over the last 2 years. I mean, technically he should have a playoff contending year this year.
Yeah.
And while winning the division may not be a for sure thing when you've got the Niners and the Rams, I think a wild card spot with the NFC South being the way it is more than possible.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You know, you start thinking about who might get in and who might be out that was in last year. And like you said, the Cardinals are a great one that could be in on the NFC side.
Yeah.
I would say, to me, I would say the Vikings will probably be out.
Really?
Yeah.
You're an anti-Vikings guy.
I'm a little anti-Vikings. I think the Packers. Excuse me.
Oh, you're fine.
I think the Packers make a move back. They kind of had an off year for them, relatively speaking, and I think the Lions stay at the top.
Yeah.
I think the Vikings take a notch down, and I think the Packers get in the wild card.
I mean, what was it? Matthew Golden, the wide receiver they drafted.
Yep.
That should help them a bunch. I'm interested to see where Jair Alexander either goes or stays.
Yeah.
That'll be maybe not a huge piece. I think he had a couple mess ups, but when everyone's only watching you and defense, there's only one thing you can do usually, and that's mess up.
Yeah.
AFC side, possible wild cards.
Gonna be interesting.
That one's tough.
That's a tricky one.
Now, if they didn't make it last year, I don't know if I'd put the Patriots immediately to make the playoffs.
You know, I just wrote Pats,
and I kind of do.
It's Mike.
Vrabel's enough.
He'll find a way.
Now, the Stephon Diggs video of him passing something to a girl on a yacht, not a great way to start off your career with Mike Vrabel. He'll probably not pay for it, but it's Stephon Diggs. But not what you like to see. But, you know, with everything you put together in the offseason so far, I like the Patriots a lot.
I really think I think they will play to Drake's strengths around him. Too. The defense will be better.
He got Tannehill to a 1 seat.
Yeah. So
I think he speaks a little French from time to time.
Think the Dolphins are in?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
No.
I think they've gotten worse, right? Probably.
Yeah.
Odds.
I'd say the Tyreek Hill stuff hasn't been pretty.
Yeah.
They still have Waddle, Smith, Tua, Achane. I don't think by any means they'll drop off. I think they probably stay about the same.
Yeah.
I'm just hesitant about Tua. Knowing how that usually goes, it could be one injury.
He's a nightmare.
It's not a pretty look over there in Miami. No. I don't know if I feel like the Jets can make that jump. Maybe. Aaron Glenn, defensive-minded coordinator, head coach, Jesus. That Jets defense was really not that bad last year. They just didn't have the takeaways they had the previous year.
Yep.
I could see that possibly getting them enough, but then they're playing the Patriots and the Bills, so I really can only pick one dark horse out of that division.
What do you think about your Chargers and the Broncos?
I want to say Broncos, but they made it last year.
They made it last year.
So I'm not going to do that. I think in a perfect world, the Chargers, Broncos get into the playoffs and the Chiefs don't. But that's not very realistic.
Yeah.
AFC North, the Bengals didn't make it last year, neither did the Colts.
I think Cincinnati's in it this year.
I hope they're in it. They definitely have the offensive capabilities. It's that defense that keeps scaring me.
I think they'll get Trey Hendrickson under control here. I think that when I was thinking about this, I'm thinking about the teams that we talk about who we keep drinking the Kool-Aid.
Steelers, Bengals.
You know, the Ravens that can't get over the hump.
Yeah.
You know, and I go back to like the Bills can't get past the Chiefs.
Right.
You know, the Ravens can't get over the hump.
Yeah.
You know, the Lions had a lot of injuries.
That's kind of started.
Couldn't get over the hump.
Yeah.
And, you know, you kind of just go in there and you say, who's got the moxie? Who didn't do it? Like Cincinnati to me. Because Joe Burrow, they've got the moxie.
Without a doubt. They've got the flash.
You know, he in the big games, I think he has the ability to come through.
I'd agree with that.
I'm not convinced of that, by Lamar Jackson.
Interesting.
So I'm kind of just taking a cue from that to try to, again, Justin Herbert. He's got it. It's there.
It feels like he does. And then he has the 2 playoff games that he does.
So
it's tough. But just speaking wild card right now.
Yep.
AFC, Patriots, and maybe I'm trying to think of one other team that I really think could do it. AFC North, you got Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns.
Yep.
AFC West, the Chargers. The South is Texans, Titans. I don't think the Titans make a leap, even with Cam Ward and Lockett.
Jaguars, Colts, I just don't see it.
I don't either.
Man. So, Raiders, I don't see it.
No.
Chargers, Broncos, I could see. Jets, I don't see it.
No.
Dolphins, I don't see it. Patriots, maybe.
Yeah, I like them.
But you really would. I would not
Bengals,
be.
Colts.
I would not be shocked to see. Yeah, it could be. Who'd you say? Bengals.
Bengals or Colts are kind of the ones that missed it last year. I think we've got to give it to, and I think out of the 2, I'd give it to the Bengals.
Bengals, Broncos, and Chargers. All 3 to me seem like wild card teams.
Right, and the Chargers and the Broncos made it last year, right? Or the Broncos get edged out at the end?
I think the Broncos still made it, and then lost to the Bills, got blown out at the end.
Yep.
So, but you're just saying people that weren't in.
Right.
Yeah, Cincinnati definitely.
I feel like Cincinnati's got to do it. They were riddled with.
Yeah.
They had their own issues last year. I think those get settled and squashed this year. They seem due for something, even though they got the Ravens on prime time.
Yeah.
But it should be a hell of a brace.
Yeah. The Niners didn't make the playoffs, did they?
Nope.
Okay, so I'd probably throw them in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It feels like if they're healthy, they should be fine. Obviously, they lost Deebo Samuel, but Brandon Ayuk, now there's no doubt who's the number 1.
Yeah.
It should be okay.
So that's kind of a wild card touch.
Kind of a wild card rundown, if you will.
If you will.
And, it's, again, way too early. Don't come for our throats. But
way too early.
It's when you think about it, it's just these teams that didn't really get in last year that I feel like could have a shot that are dark horses. Of course, when you talk about playoffs, I guess the next step up is conference championships.
Well, let's hit divisionals.
Divisionals.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, well, good Lord.
Here's what I've got. I just read it down to you, and you
Please.
give me your... We'll take them one by one and let you comment on each one.
Yep.
I'm gonna say that Cincinnati beats the Ravens.
Okay.
In the divisional round.
Noted.
And again, that just highlighting my Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson thing.
Yeah, in the divisional round.
Yep, in the divisional round. So you're past the wild card round.
Yep.
I don't know. I think Cincinnati's due to get back into it.
I don't hate that take. With it being a divisional game too, if anything, I would say Bengals more than likely, unless they go 15-1 or 15-2 this season, go into that game as underdogs. Probably at Baltimore, based on that logic. Burrow's gone into Arrowhead and won. He's gone into Buffalo and won. I don't know what his record off the top of my head is against the Ravens, but if there was someone to do it that's not one of the other 2, I would definitely say it'd be Joe Burrow. And they have the offensive weaponry to stay in that game for as long as they did. Obviously, the Ravens in the playoffs, for some reason, when they get usually past this round, but against a good team, historically, have just found a way to lose it.
Yeah. That's
been kind of outstanding. And I think that mental hump might be there.
Yeah.
I really, and this is an insane thing to say, could see the Bengals just pulling it off.
Yeah.
I'm kind of reminiscing about the Super Bowl run they had where their defense just stepped up out of nowhere, and they had a pretty good roster for it.
Yep.
Don't think the roster is quite the same that it was, but that's not a bad thing.
Sure.
Because the mentality then is different. But Bengals being the Ravens, I don't hate.
Yeah.
As crazy as it is to say.
They got, in the divisional round, to have the Chiefs over the Bills.
That feels due.
So not the Bills over the Chiefs.
Right.
I still don't think the Bills have the answer to the Chiefs.
There's some mentality there that it feels like Patrick Mahomes is just going to win. I said it last year. I'll say it this year. They go, 10-7 in the regular season, and then they flip a switch in the postseason. And this might be Travis Kelce's last season.
That could be.
So I could see there being just a little bit more fire from him than what we saw last year.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs, I think, who was it? Rashee Rice?
Yeah.
Was hurt the entire season last year.
Yeah.
And Pacheco was hurt for part of it. For whatever reason, I just have a hunch that, as per normal, as per Patriots fashion, Mahomes just flips the switch for that.
Finds a way again.
Xavier Worthy's in his second season.
He'll be a much better.
They got a new offensive tackle, even though they got rid of Tooney. I don't see how they got that much worse.
They got to be a little bit better, actually, I think.
And if it's at Kansas City, if they got high enough seated, definitely could see that.
Yeah.
Now, the Bills got a hell of a lot better, but the mentality in the playoffs.
That's the key.
That's kind of what I base it off of.
And it you can't get rid of it.
No.
Until you find a way to do it, you can't get rid of it.
And
I'm not saying I don't hope that they do.
Right.
But I just know how these things are. The Niners were over the Cowboys this way. The Chiefs over many teams that way.
I completely agree.
So, I think in the divisional round on the NFC side, I think the Lions take out the Eagles.
That would be the matchup we never got, right?
Yeah.
Because it was Commanders-Eagles in the championship because the Commanders beat the Lions last year.
And I just think, again, Eagles are really good. There's no doubt about it. The Lions had that most of the year.
Yeah.
It just succumbed to a lot of injuries at the end on the defensive side of the ball. And I just think they're so close. They're right there.
I think
little hunger is going to be the edge to the Lions.
They like I kind of said, if anybody watches the comments, I don't know. The Lions are going to take maybe an extra couple weeks, get fired up, I think. I think losing those coordinators for offense and defense will matter. It will show in the first maybe 2 months of the season, 8 games.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like at some point, it's going to click after a horrendous loss to a team the Lions were favored by 10 against, and then the switch flips, and by the end of it, I could see them getting that spot. And a lot of those players, I think they still got most of the roster from last year, aside from whoever on defense really balled out.
Right.
And they're going to be hungry to send a message. And it's NFC East again. It's the Eagles. They'll probably be 1 or 2. Lions might be 4 or 5 in divisional seeding. Who knows? And I definitely think the Lions, if I coin flip that, could win that game.
Yeah.
Because I can't quite remember how the Commanders-Eagles game went in that conference championship.
Mm-hmm.
But any given Sunday, who knows what happens?
Yeah. Yep. And then I think before, also in the divisional round, I think the Redskins, Commanders, beat the Rams.
Interesting. Now that's the one I might agree with the least, only because I think Sean McVay is too smart for Dan Quinn. I think
could be
because the Rams only lost to the Eagles due to snow and a silly pass from Stafford.
That's true.
Jared Verse, they have Poona Ford. That Rams defense is back to having a combined Aaron Donald right now.
They're tough.
Now, Commanders, Redskins, they've got Deebo Samuel, Scary Terry, Zach Ertz, who looked amazing in the postseason.
Yeah, got better and better.
Yeah,
didn't he?
They still have Brian Robinson Jr., I think is the running back's name.
Yep.
I do think the Commanders could do really well this season. I don't think in the playoffs the Rams get outdone by a second-year quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't, sophomore slump with quarterbacks, say what you will, we'll see what happens. But they make it to the playoffs, assuming they play the Rams. I think that defense could bully ball the Commanders.
Okay.
Mixed with Puka Nacua being out there. Somehow he got the ball every game. And every team. Now, they had Cooper Kupp to kind of throw off, wherever you put your cornerbacks and your safeties. That'll be interesting to watch. Don't get me wrong.
How they replace that, right?
Devontae Adams.
Yep.
I think the Rams are going to be good.
Yeah.
And Sean McVay is one little statistical nerd, and I think he dissects whatever he needs to, and Stafford doesn't have to move.
Are you saying that just because you went to the same college he did?
Sean McVay is a pretty cool person. His dad is pretty sweet. We met him at a hotel in Miami of Ohio, in Oxford.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet. That Super Bowl ring they got over the Bengals, listen, Bengals.
Pretty awesome stuff.
You missed out on a sweet ring. That thing opens up, if I remember right. But I think Sean McVay can handle it.
Can't blame you for vibing that way.
Yeah, and the Eagles go on to beat the Commanders. Rams almost beat the Eagles.
Yeah, it was really close.
I don't know how you rank them, really,
because
they did beat the Lions, who were overlords to most of the NFC. It's impossible to know for sure.
Yep.
Just off the top of my head, and it's fucking May. That's just my hunch.
So now we're to the conference round, the championships, and here's what I've got. I've got Cincinnati over the Chiefs, and I've got the Lions over the Redskins.
Yes to both. Assuming these matchups happened, hypothetically,
And I've already taken your Rams out, so you could throw out your own version of this.
That's fine. Chiefs over Bills? Is that what you said?
Cincinnati. Cincinnati over Chiefs. Yep.
Yes.
They have their numbers, so.
They have their number to some extent. I feel like if someone's going to do it to the Chiefs, there's in some way a part of Patrick Mahomes' brain that just sees orange stripes and quivers a little bit.
It's got to be someone who's done it.
It has to be someone that does it.
Again, until they prove us otherwise.
Right. I agree with that.
If you're prognosticating, you got to say,
why not make this a little...
Ravens can't do it, Bills can't do it.
No, yeah. And it would make sense with the cycle. Every few years, a team comes in and kind of chews out the Chiefs. Not in the Super Bowl, but just in the AFC Championship game. And Chiefs got a lot better, but maybe the Bengals figure out a way. They're rough and tough.
Opportunistic.
Opportunistic is a great way to put it. I can't pronounce that word to save my life. But why not?
And I really have to say, I've got it on the other side. I said Lions over Redskins. I've got the Lions winning the whole thing over Cincinnati in the end.
Okay.
All Ohio State, Ohio, Michigan again.
I was about to say Lions-Bengals would be a new vibe to the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry because then you get the college fans involved to some extent, maybe just based off state rivalry. They'll chew that shit up every time.
Right.
Lions Commanders. If that matchup happens again, I think the Lions win it, no matter what part of the playoffs it's in.
You got a couple revenges in here. You got I guess you got the Lions getting the Redskins. That's the big one from last year.
That would be huge. Yeah. Lions fans would be chomping at the bit. Yeah. No matter where that game's at, Lions fans will show up, I feel like.
Yep. So we'll see.
We'll see. Aiden Hutchinson would be healthy for that hypothetically, and I want to say they got another defensive tackle in the draft early, or
I think they did
in the first round, that would be huge going up against the Commanders, given what they've got. And then the Lions to go into the Super Bowl against the Bengals would be small market heaven. Well, maybe not Detroit, but Cincinnati. That'd be a sweet matchup I'd love. Don't remember where the Super Bowl's at this year. We got time.
Yeah, I'm not sure,
But
we'll come back to that. Highlight and talk about all the wonderful things to see around wherever that is.
Yeah, Lions-Bengals would be sweet, though.
Yeah.
I would be pumped for that Super Bowl. I would go in thinking the Lions would win it. Somehow the Bengals would probably stay in it. Probably take the lead, and it would come down the same way with the Rams, where either the Bengals bangle or the Lions fizzle.
Yeah,
and that would be amazing.
True.
Now, do you have a dark horse Super Bowl?
Dark horse Super Bowl.
You don't have to worry about the matchups leading up to the Super Bowl. Just a hypothetical. Either you love it or you could possibly see it happen.
Yeah. Oh,
it's a loaded question.
You got one?
I think I might have one.
Let's hear it.
I think in some world, the Bills keep up with the rest of the league, have a breakout season for 1 year. Got a lot of new players, a lot of good players. Bills win the AFC. Now the NFC, I could see it. Bills, Rams win.
Bills, Rams. All right. I can see that.
I don't have anything around that other than the Rams beat the Bengals. They go down the list and beat the Bills.
All right.
It's strictly off alphabetical. That's terrible podcasting, but that's just a hypothetical I could see. I think if a lot of those NFC teams have to travel to LA that would be in the playoffs, in some doomsday scenario that the Rams get the 1 seed, you'd have Eagles and Commanders traveling all the way to LA, which would be a heck of a time zone shift and a pretty big, flight, if you will, travel distance.
Sure.
Think about the Lions, it'd be the same thing. Now, if it's another NFC West team, obviously that's a different story. I'm trying to think what other teams are in the playoffs typically, but
interesting.
I feel like that'd be a pretty good matchup. It'd be like the old guns versus the new guns, a revamped defense.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting one for sure.
And also it's just not the names you keep thinking of. I didn't want to pick Eagles. I don't want to pick Chiefs. Everyone's hypotheticalized every team matchup in the Super Bowl versus each other there. But it'd also be on par for the 49ers to somehow do it this year and go against the Chiefs.
Yep.
It kind of feels like we're somehow repeating matchups from previous years.
I'm going to say Niners versus the Ravens.
Now that'd be classic. That'd be a good rematch from, was that 2013?
Harbaugh versus Harbaugh?
Yeah, that was Alex Smith versus Joe Flacco.
I think so, yeah.
Colin Kaepernick. I can't remember what season that was.
That was Colin Kaepernick, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. Harbaugh versus Harbaugh.
Yeah.
And just get the old school rivalry back.
Yeah. And I'd take the Ravens winning that one.
Yep. I would too. Yeah, that'd be kind of horrible.
I don't know.
That's why, damn it, now I could see that one happening.
Something outside
just a random long shot that you get the 49ers back.
Yeah. I could totally see the Rams-Bills.
And, most of these, until...
We're just shooting in the dark, right?
Yeah, shooting in the dark. Why not? This way we can pull a clip in 12 months and be like, look who had it first.
And my big question, I mean, everybody seems to think that Eagles will win the division for the first time back-to-back for an NFC East team in 20 years.
That's true.
But that's pretty interesting to see if they could do it.
Yeah.
I mean, on paper, you'd say yes.
Right. But then you think about all the... you think Commanders might be able to do it. Then you have to think about, his second season, quote-unquote, most teams figure out a quarterback in an off-season like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if the same really was, if it was the same thing for Stroud or not, considering Tank Dell and Nico Collins were both hurt for a majority.
Yeah, that's kind of rough.
That's an unfortunate situation to find yourself in.
Yeah.
And then you think about, the Cowboys, and
who knows?
It's the NFC East. And then you think about the Giants getting better.
Yep.
They steal one from each team. That not hurts the division, but puts them up more.
Well, and that's why all four teams have strength of schedule that's really crazy high. Yeah. Because all those teams have been pretty good for the most part.
Exactly. So we'll have to see. Do you have anything else?
That's why they play the games, right?
Yes.
So
naturally,
the all way too early.
Yes.
Prognostication of the playoff brackets. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, sprinkled in. It's kind of just our thoughts. We had to come up with something. And to be honest, I'm just thirsting for NFL. I just want it to be back.
No doubt about it.
Bring it back. I'm done with the off season. It's only May, and I'm sick and tired of it. Well, almost June.
Closer.
Yeah, one little bit at a time.
Yep.
Nevertheless, appreciate all of the support on the last few videos. Appreciate you guys subscribing and watching. And as always, have a safe week, and we will see you all next week on the Coy Pond. Peace.